Welcome to this, our post NFL Combine review. We're going to be joined by our friends Adam and Rob from the Let's Talk Seahawks podcast. We're going to be talking all about the risers and fallers, the standouts, the Seahawks targets that we think we should be going after. And then we've got a couple of mock drafts. Also, for any of you who saw the preview, the Combine preview episode that we did, it's available on YouTube. It's on all the podcasting apps. Feel free. Go back, have a look, see what we said about those players. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell to know exactly what's going to come up very soon. Also, buy us a coffee. So we now have a buy me a coffee. The link will be in the video description, and it's a nice way for you guys to say thank you. We will be looking at some point to be donating some of that to our chosen charity, which we'll discuss in future episodes. But without further ado, Mitch, should we hit the theme music?
Let's do it.
Welcome in, everyone. We are here with our good friends at the Let's Talk Seahawks pod. Well, one of them at least, and the other one is about to join. So after some technical difficulties, hi Rob, how you doing? Nice to see you back here again. We did think you'd just gone now. We can't talk about this. There's too much news, which we're going to do. We're going to address to start with. This pod is all about our post-combine review. We'll talk about our risers and fallers, who we really like personally, who we think the Seahawks should go after. And finally, we'll talk about our post-combine mocks. So Mitch and I have done one as 12 Talk, and I know Adam and Rob, you've done one as well as Let's Talk Seahawks. But first, big news earlier on today. Russell Wilson cut by the Broncos. I am going to just sit back here, and some of you saw this before, but just go on. Don't wish the person well, wish the caricature of the player not so much. Gentlemen, how do we feel about that? Expected?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a
expected.
Yeah, there's a. I don't know if any the people over there in the UK are fans of Futurama, but there's a meme where the main character, whose name, of course, because I forget names, is slipping my mind.
Right.
But Fry says, "I'm shocked." Well, I'm not that shocked. And that's exactly that's my sentiment. I mean, yeah.
Oh, it finally happened.
Yeah, we knew it was going to happen.
Yeah. Wish him all the best. Hope he goes somewhere where he can get another shot to start. For those of you that are waiting for it, no, it's not going to be in Seattle. I can't understand a single fan that would wish for that. Yes, I know what Russ did when he was here, but no.
Yep. We did have a question in our Discord from Scott Anderson asking if we would bring Russ back. So that's 2 votes for no between me and Adam. Mitch, Robert?
Not for me.
3.
Yeah, it's a no. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it would be detrimental to him as well as the franchise. We just need to move past maybe 5 years down the road if he can still come in and be a mentor type. Yes, but not at this stage in his career.
So there you go. That's the answer. It's a unanimous no.
Can he come back in a negative cap? Like, could he give us $32 million?
Give us a refund.
Yeah. then I'd consider it. I'd consider it if we could do that.
As long as that 32 million goes to the fans for all the anguish and heartache that he caused us when the whole saga was going on. Personally, I'm just going to say thanks for the laughs, Russ. Seeing you in a Denver uniform was A, hilarious, and B, quite karmic now. But then we also have obviously one cut from a team who we don't podcast about, but just before we came on air, there were 3 cuts possibly more coming whilst we're on air, and I'm sure we're all going to be checking. If anyone watching all on YouTube, X, or Facebook sees any more, please let us know in the comments. But our safety tandem, the most expensive safety tandem in the league, have both been cut. Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs. How do we feel about this, guys? Let's start with, go on, Robert, you go.
We knew Adams was going to happen. I don't think there was a question with his cap. Diggs, also high cap, it was a possibility. I'm hoping Diggs is a sign and kind of cut and then re-sign sort of opportunity. Same with Will Dissly, who also just got cut. So it's tough. I hope they come back. I don't know if it's going to happen, though.
Yeah, for me, okay, we'll go Adam. Go on, Adam.
No, I was going to say across, whichever way that is. My camera does weird things.
Yeah,
let's go.
Reverse.
Let's go. Robert, Mitch, Adam.
It's yeah, I mean, I think we all saw Jamal Adams coming with the lack of time on the field, and the amount of money he's gotten. Look, it was obviously it never quite worked with him coming. It's very reminiscent of the trade for Jimmy Graham for me. Like an amazing player who just didn't fit in here the way that we thought, and part of that obviously was injuries. We know Graham tore his Achilles. Obviously with Adams, he just couldn't stay on the field, and even when he was outside of the 1 year, he just didn't perform well. Diggs, I think I had hoped that the 2 years ago after he'd come off that injury, we were just waiting for him to come back and be full strength, and he would be the guy that he was. He never quite got back to that point, being that ball hawking safety. Yes, he had some great plays toward the end of the season last season, but I don't think he ever quite returned to form. He may be past his prime. I think if opening up $34 million of cap was an absolute necessity. We didn't have anything in the bank to sign free agents, let alone bring in our rookie class. So I all these moves make sense. I think the players, it'd be nice to see Diggs back on a reduced contract. Obviously, we all know I love Uncle Will. I think all of us agree that out of the three, the one we'd love to see back would be Will Dissly.
Yeah, I agree with those points. I do hope Dissly is a cut and sign a new deal, restructured to help us this year, and maybe a 3-year deal in a different sort of format to try, because the way that it ended up this year with his cap hit wasn't something I could fathom us keeping on the roster. So hopefully that's a restructure kind of situation, or re-sign to a favourable deal. Adams, as Robbie said, I think we all saw it coming in some way, shape, or form, him not being on the roster. The big question mark was over when it was done. I love the fact that we're doing this pre-June 1st, because the idea of saving more money this year but still paying him in dead cap in 2025, that's a lingering bad smell that I don't really want in 2025. If we're gonna get rid of him this year, I want his cap hit to only be in this year. I don't want that lingering. So that's a really positive thing. Diggs is a bit of a heart wrencher, because I do like him, and his production has been really consistent for us over his time here. Lots of interceptions. As we know, he had that streak of minimum of 3. Was it 4 years running? Three interceptions? Yeah, four seasons of 3. That's really strong, and we're going to miss that if we don't re-sign him. We'll have to replace him in a big way. So not surprised by the moves. Surprised they all came on the same day. That surprised me.
Brutal, isn't it? That must have been like a conveyor belt in Schneider's office.
I wonder whether there was 2 of them sat outside the office waiting to go in,
just on chairs,
like a principal's office. You all got in a fight, and you're going to go in there one by one.
Yeah, and the miracle in all of this was that Quandre Diggs didn't give us a spoiler alert on Twitter. He loves to get in there and spoil the news.
Maybe it was a surprise to him.
He did, actually.
Did he really?
Yeah, he didn't report it. He just put up an always grateful.
So, oh, really?
Yeah,
it's true.
How far was that before the news was announced?
2 days ago.
Hold on, I have it up right here.
I think it was 2 days ago. I'm pretty sure it was 2 days ago.
It was 47 minutes ago.
Oh, what am I thinking of? He must have posted something a couple days ago.
What are you on?
I don't know. I follow Nino. Why didn't I get that one? He's on my follow on X.
That's
Twitter.
just another way. That's just another way in which we're going to miss him, right? Like the whole asking to break the news. It was part of the character of the franchise, in the sort of social media area. So that certainly going to miss that character in a big way.
Yeah, I think that the whole disclaimer just needs to be said for all the Seahawks fans out there. These hits are going to be, I think, fast and furious coming. I mean, I don't expect this to be quite the 167 moves John's first year as GM here, but I think we're going to be close. We're going to see a lot of shakeup on the roster. People that we don't expect to get cut are going to get cut. People we don't expect to get traded are going to get traded.
Well, if the overhaul's anything like the coaching staff, it's going to be profound and absolute.
Yeah, the only buddy left is going to be Gino, just one person.
Well, and I expect more moves to come. I think we all expect a Brian Monet move, just due to what his cap hit is. So I expect to see a few more of these come roll through.
I expect us to get a lot younger. I mean, to start with, but just following on from you guys, I see this as the Adams, no surprise. Disley, Mitch and I, when we did our sort of cap cut episodes, Disley was always up there or thereabouts. Diggs was always a possibility. From what I can see, Adams' best ability is availability. He was never available. Took a massive cap hit. Just get rid of that. That is a Pete Carroll, John Schneider mess up that we just need to new brush sweeps clean out. Diggs, I'm gutted because he was a fantastic character. He was loved in the locker room in the building. But again, this all rings as we're trying to get younger, more aggressive. And then Disley, huge cap hit. Again, good locker room guy. But again, he's injured so much. There's going to be more coming. Like you said, Monet. I think Monet is going to go. And I still think Nick Ballore might be on the chopping block if we're looking at age and we're looking at effectiveness, because you can get enough effective special teams players. And that's essentially what he is now.
The one I'm curious about is Draymond Jones.
Yeah. But I think Mitch said this in one of our pods that he could have a bit of a rebirth under this new offense, new defense, even under Mike Mack. So, yeah, well, there you go. That's the news flash. We won't dwell on it too much because we'll have more content coming up with that. So make sure you follow us on all of our socials. You'll know us on X. We're 12 Talk Pod, and then these guys are LT Seahawks Pod. That's right, isn't it? So podcast. I'm sorry for anyone watching. For some reason, my camera's mirrored that way. There you go. That's Robert right there. All right. But let's get onto it. Let's get onto the post-combine stuff. So we'll start off with the biggest rises. Whose stock rose the most, in your opinion? For this one, let's go. That is up, isn't it? I am right doing that way. Yeah?
No, I'm down.
It's completely flipped. No, you're wrong again.
All right, let's start. We'll start clockwise. We'll make it easy. Mitch, who was your biggest riser?
I'll open with Braden Fisk. I think day one, a name that wasn't everyone's most glamorous sort of name. He wasn't sort of no one's really mentioning him in first round terms. Not even as a late. He's seen as kind of an early day two guy, maybe late second round. He was dominant on the drills, the D-line drills. He popped in a big way, far faster than anyone thought, far more clean on all of his drills. Physically, he looked an absolute standout, and I think, whilst I don't think he's necessarily propelled himself into the first round, I think to climb from the back end of the second round up to the top of the second round, it's actually quite a profound thing to do, because he's leapfrogged a lot of D linemen in that space. So I think that was a huge leap for him. And honestly, I'd be over the moon if we were to trade back and get a second and pick up someone like that. I'd be over the moon.
Yeah, that's. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, when me and Mitch were doing the live watch on our Discord, as soon as that came up, every drill he did looked so crisp. So thanks for stealing my one, Mitch. Adam, go on.
Maybe I'll steal your second one. So for me, I think the biggest mic drop moment of the the combine had to be Xavier Worthy's 40 time. His second run, I mean, he went 4.25, which is nothing to dismiss, and he wanted to come back and do a second. I don't think he needed to. I don't know that he was going to improve his stock that much, even breaking the record. But I do think he's kind of put himself in the conversation for a first round pick. Do I think that's overdrafting him? Yes, I do. But I think with that speed, someone's going to bite. Yes, I know the Raiders aren't the team that they used to be, so it's probably not going to be them. But there are teams that need a guy to stretch the field like that I think are going to be willing to throw a first round pick. I'm looking at teams like Tennessee that do need wide receiver help, have those guys in the middle, but need a guy that's going to really take the top off the defense. So I think he had just the biggest moment of the combine.
Yeah, and as far as risers go, as a podcast tandem, I gave Adam the risers. I took the fallers.
So he has nothing for us.
Well, Mitch is
two guys
taking my biggest riser. So.
So yeah, if you just want to go and say your risers, I'll jump in with fallers when we hit that section.
No,
go ahead, Josh.
My two risers, two biggest risers were the two that these two have mentioned. I think Worthy, he's put it on tape playing college and everyone knows what he can do. But I think that 40 times just blown people out of the water, providing it's not a John Ross trajectory. That's my only fear. You can be quick as you like, but if you can't run a route properly, you can't, route for our American audience as well. If you can't catch in traffic, there's a lot of chatter about his build, his body size, that he can get knocked off his routes really easily with the tiniest bit of sort of physicality. That would be something that would scare me a bit. And Fisk, I just thought, as someone who keeps an eye on the Knowles, I didn't anticipate. I knew he was good, but I didn't anticipate him doing as good as he did in this. Every drill he did when me and Mitch were watching, we both were just like, wow, that was crisp. That was it was aggressive. The way he was hitting the bags on some of the drills as well, he was hitting them with purpose, with intent, rather than just a quick slap and I'll run off that way. Yeah, those two for me.
I will say this one, Worthy. John Ross obviously is fresh on everybody's mind because he was the previous record holder with the 4.22. But I think after seeing what and I completely forgot his name, the Devontae Smith, has done at that size in the NFL and been able to stay healthy and take those kind of hits, I think he's a little bit more on people's mind. As can a smaller receiver still succeed when he's not the main focus of the offense? And I think if he goes to a team, and I keep mentioning Tennessee. But if he goes to a team like Tennessee where they have other receiving targets, guys that are going to take the bulk of those, getting 5-6 targets a game, and he's just going to get those 3 or 4 targets as that field stretcher. I think that he's set up to succeed in the NFL if he gets used correctly. I mean, he's talked about how Deshaun Jackson is his idol. If somebody picks him up and uses him like Deshaun Jackson, get him on special teams, use him as a return guy, and then use him at times to stretch the field, he can have a great career.
Yeah, it's National, one of our regular watchers and Discord members, is in complete agreement with us with Fisk as well. But Worthy, I think there's a lot of talk about him possibly going at the back of the first. I was watching something earlier, as I'm currently off work for a prolonged period of time. I've got all the time on YouTube now of people saying that they can see him going, not getting past KC. Because KC might see that with Mahomes and go, that is a perfect option.
I mean, they've already seen it, right? Tyreek Hill, that was there. I mean, don't get me wrong, Tyreek Hill's a complete receiver. He can take a ball from anywhere and go anywhere. But Mahomes knows how to throw it downfield, and they've got guys to throw to over the middle already. So,
all right, Robert, come on, let's go with the fallers. You take some fallers, I'll take some, and then if there's any left over. We'll let these two.
There'll be some left over.
I've got a couple players that I'll name as production fallers. I'm gonna split this into 2 categories, right? I have fallers and I have losers. So, fallers,
brutal.
Fallers, we have Troy Franklin, wide receiver out of Oregon, right? Both of my players I'm gonna spotlight here are Northwest guys. Sure, he showed his athleticism, ran a 4.41. That's a great time for a wide receiver. But everybody coming into the combine thought that he was going to be a 4.3 guy. So he didn't really answer that question. Yes, he's athletic. Yes, he's towards the top of the class, but he's not what people thought he was going to be. He also only weighed in at 176 pounds, which is slight. And frame and durability was a question people had on him before the combine. And then for me, as a former wide receivers coach, he didn't look natural in the drills. So every time he was catching the ball, he was almost slapping the ball, or he'd catch it closer to the body than you would expect from a natural hands catcher. So Troy Franklin, for me, moved down my list. He moved down probably 4 or 5 wide receivers because this class is that deep. Big faller for me. Another one, I hate to say it, but out of Washington, Braylon Trice. Right? He fell in this one for me. He played at Washington around 270 pounds. He weighed in at the combine at 245. So lost a lot of weight, slimmed down, really leaned out. I was like, oh, this man is going to run either high 4.5s or low 4.6s. And then he went out there and put up a 4.72, but without an elite 10-yard split. So was he just good at 270? I mean, if he runs a 4.7 at 270, then that's fantastic. But if he adds those 25, 30 pounds back on and then ends up a 5'1" guy, then who do you have? You have an undersized 3-tech who's not going to be able to play on the edge in the NFL. So a lot of questions for me on Braylon Trice. And then my little rant, my losers of the combine are future fans and players if the NFL doesn't crack the whip a little bit. So these losers are the prospects who tried to overshadow the event. I'm talking Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, who didn't even allow themselves to be measured in this event, as if they're going to grow in the next 2 weeks before their pro day. It's a power move and it's weak, right? And then the biggest one of this combine, I believe, is Caleb Williams. Presumptive number 1 pick, right? He had character concerns coming into the season. Then his teammates, current coaches, former coaches got together. There was this big campaign to fix Caleb Williams' image. Everybody came out and said, no, he's great. He's a leader. He's somebody you want to be with. He's competitive. And then he just confirmed everybody's character concerns at the combine when he wouldn't do medical. He's the first player in combine history to refuse teams medical access. He came out and said, I'll only do medical for teams who bring me in for one of their official visits. Then his dad's out there saying he wants a piece, an ownership piece of whatever team drafts him.
Which isn't allowed in the contracts.
Yeah, well, the player
players.
can't. I think dad's trying to be like, oh, give me a piece. It'll be his, but it's, we'll get around the rules that way. But if you look, the Commanders were sold for, was it $6 billion?
6.8, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. So at $6 billion,
7.
1% is $60 million. So you're telling me you're going to try to pony up $60 million for somebody like Caleb Williams? Sure, he's supposed to be a good prospect, but let's be real. Caleb Williams and I have the exact same NFL quarterback rating.
True.
Zero. Right? He needs to humble himself and realize that he has a higher statistical chance to be Ryan Leaf than he does to be Patrick Mahomes.
I've enjoyed that.
You know what? I didn't even ask for that losers part, but that was brilliant. You've taken one of mine. For me, it was the 2 biggest fallers. Both belong to the Huskies. So you mentioned Trice, and I agree. Again, me and Mitch were saying this in our live sort of watch. There was no
Walking through
fluidity.
it.
Yeah, it just seemed really labored. I got to the point where after watching him and the next person I'm going to talk about, I was thinking, are the Huskies trying to lower their draft stock so they can be signed by the Seahawks in the later round? So there you see, there you go. But yeah, my next one was Dylan Johnson. I just completely underawed for everything that we'd seen with the Huskies, for everything we know he can do on his day, just everything he did. It didn't do anything for me. Every drill again seemed laboured. He just seemed a bit off. I couldn't even get my head around it. I wish I'd actually put together all the figures. I should have, rather than watching YouTube videos and all the draft classes. But I was watching it, watching all the reruns. I thought, right, I'm going to focus on this because I think this could be to someone we replace DJ Dallas with. And right now, I'm not sure I'd want to. It'd be, hometown hero, brilliant. But then he'd be RB4 and he'd get no game time. And based on his combine, I don't think he would in many.
Yeah.
That they were my two, just the two Huskies, which I was the most disappointed about. It really, really got to me a little bit, if I'm honest. Mitch, I know you've probably got a couple.
Yeah, an interesting one. Someone who's fallen a little bit, and it's unfortunate. Olu Fashanu, widely regarded as tackle number 2 in this class, and if you look at the performance of Fuaga and Fatanu, those were two guys that looked extremely polished. Olu Fashanu held in really high regard because of his performance for Penn State during his college career. He's potentially been leapfrogged now. I mean, he pulled a quad, didn't I think he pulled a quad doing his first 40, wasn't it? Yeah, during his first 40. And obviously then couldn't participate in drills, but got shown up by the exceptional skill sets of two highly polished tackles that were already sort of closing on him anyway. Now, I think as a Seahawks fan, that might be an absolute wondrous player to fall if we're looking to bolster our offensive line. Imagine being able to take Fashanu, putting him at right tackle, and bumping Lucas inside to guard. Unbelievable if you could pull
you're
that.
A big fan of that. You've mentioned it a few times now, and I can see it. I think it'd be brilliant.
Yeah, that'd be unbelievable if that happened. But through no real fault of his own, because in my opinion, O linemen have no business running a 40 so that we can watch and cheer. And I think if you watch the second wave of O linemen running, it proves the point, because there was 2 injuries in a row, and I think 4 in total in that group. And it's the only bit they should really be doing is the drills. You can tell far more from the drills afterwards than you can from at least the last part of the 40. I mean, the first 10 yards is important, obviously, but why are we doing it at this point? It's ruined. It's ruined an opportunity for Fashanu to go and show what he can do.
I think just to interject really quickly. Part of what we were saying about Trice and a lot of the other guys, especially in the sort of the drills, I got the sense after the first couple of participants, people were watching them and thinking they're sliding everywhere. You know, you're on turf, all you see is the black pellets, and you think, do I go 100% full bore and potentially risk an injury during my combine, which will then impact my draft stock again? That was something that through every single drill I saw, the people that went full on, like let's take Fisk for example. You know, I can't remember which drill it was where he slipped. It was a great recovery, but for me, I just thought, oh, something's going to snap, and I could see so many of them doing it as well. But that was just my little sort of nugget there. And you were saying about the 40 and these old linemen having to do a 40-yard dash. It means nothing to them, and now some of them got injured doing it, which again has impacted the draft stock.
I'm going to push back a little bit on the O lineman doing the 40. I agree that it's unnecessary for their skill set, but it does standing out in the 40 for an O lineman does put you on people's radars. And I think going back to, I know we're kind of doing a little reverse here, going back to winners, but Roger Rosengarten from UW wasn't on people's radars as a guy that they were really looking at. Like, this is a guy who was probably a day 3 prospect, and I think some people are looking at him going, you know, let's go back and look at his tape. He did take it. He was the tackle that took a team to the national title. He does have pretty decent game tape. He's not. You look at his tape. He doesn't look like a very athletic mover, but showing that speed show that he does have some athleticism. I think that might have vaulted him a little bit. As far as losers go, the biggest loser is the NFL. I mean, I don't think it's debatable that the NFL lost the most on this. You have guys like Caleb Williams basically saying, "No, I'm not going to do what you guys are asking me to do. I'm not going to treat this like a job interview, which is what the combine is supposed to be." And I think that the NIL has really kind of pushed that into the forefront. But I do think the NFL, we're going to see more people as seasons go on opting not even to come to the combine if they're already projected to go in the top 10. Like I mean, Caleb Williams, we talk about him as a loser, but he could not. There's nothing he could have done to help his draft stock. Nothing he did was going to make him. I mean, he was already projected to go number one. It's either going to be him or another quarterback going number one overall. Chances are it's going to be him. Nothing he could have done could have made his draft stock any better. I'm not arguing for it. He still should have treated this like a job interview, gone out and proven that he is the guy that everyone thinks he is, and solidified himself as that number one overall pick. But I understand his point of view, and I think we're going to see more and more players, just like we're seeing with college, where players are opting not to play bowl games, players are opting, not to come back or for that fourth year or whatever. I think we're going to see more and more of that moving forward. We're going to see fewer players wanting to go to the combine and really shining out if they've already submitted themselves as top players.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, going back to what we said about the 40 for the O-line, do you think we might see players who have got a lot to gain doing the 40, like Rosengarten and possibly the top prospects opting out of doing, opening their combine performance with the 40? Do you think we might start seeing some people just opting out of that altogether and just doing the drills in the future if they've got solid stock already?
Well, everything's kind of cyclical, right? I mean, I think we're going to, like I said, I think we'll get to a point where we're going to see fewer and fewer people participate, which means the combine is going to start inviting guys that are farther down on that list. And some guys are going to be able to come and shine out like that and show that they're worthy of a draft spot when they wouldn't have been considered before. So I think it helps some people and hurts the others. But I think the biggest loser is the NFL, because right now the combine is an event and people tune into the combine to see these players, moments like Xavier Worthy, but people wanted to see Caleb Williams, ball out. And we didn't get that opportunity. So I think that at least in the immediate future, that's going to hurt the NFL.
Fair enough.
I agree wholeheartedly. So sorry about my technical glitch there. I have no idea what happened. I was just upgrading my internet, and obviously that's gone well.
Sorry, me and Mitch are going to crash our laptops in a few minutes, just so we're
cool.
all
There you go. Parity across the board. There,
we need to commiserate here. That's.
I mean, I think we've actually addressed the next point of sort of, or maybe not. Like, who was your personal favorite? Let's go for one. And then we'll move on to who we'd like to see the Seahawks draft. So, Mitch, do you want to go? Who was your personal favorite throughout this whole process?
Terry and Arnold, I think. We know what he's been for Alabama. He's been an extremely competitive corner, very combative, lots of physicality. I loved watching how clean he was in all of his drills. I thought he looked a real. I mean, I've said the word highly polished a lot here, but the guys are talking about Fisk deserved that title as well. He looked really, really good. I think that he and Quinion Mitchell have solidified what CB1-2 for this draft. So I think Terrion Arnold is a guy that I'd love to see us draft. If he falls to us at 16, I'd love to see us take him. I know that doesn't fit with people's trench desires, both sides of the ball for our first pick. But my God, would that be good to see him in the secondary with Devin Witherspoon? What a combination that would be.
And Reek.
Reek as well, yeah.
We've got so many up and coming young secondary. I still think that Kobe Bryant needs a shot to shine, and he'll hopefully get that in this new defense. For me, it's Tavondre Sweat. I mean, Byron Murphy was the guy people were talking about coming out of Texas, but watching the big man move, I'm sold. Like, if we can get him on day 2, I'm happy. I mean, that guy's huge. He's a space heater. He's the kind of body we haven't seen on this defensive line in the last several seasons. The kind of guy that we were all banging the table. They're going to stick with this 3-4 experiment. Let's get a big body in the middle. This is a true nose tackle. I don't know what this defense is going to look like under McDonald. I think it's going to be a little bit more hybrid 4-3, but there's nothing wrong with having a big guy out there on early downs.
It fit in well because we've got no tight ends on the roster as well, and he can double as that. There you go.
Solid.
There you go.
Man, Josh thinking there. I like it. I like it.
I love it.
My favorite player. Oh, that's tough. I didn't put down a favorite player. Put down a couple standouts.
I know who your favorite player is.
Well, my favorite player we'll talk about during our mock draft. So I'll save that one. But I'll probably say I'm going to give two here. Sorry. Michael Penix, I think, answered every single question. He said, they're like, oh, can you make all the throws? He made all the throws.
That was Josh's guy.
He wasn't Josh's guy.
No, it wasn't Josh's guy.
I'm bored of hearing about him.
He did very well in interviews. He did very well in the medical reviews as well. I think he answered a lot of questions. So I'm going to say he's a standout type of player. But my favorite player was probably Max Melton, the corner from Rutgers. Brother of former Seahawks draft pick Bo Melton, now with the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, it'd be awkward if we ended up drafting him.
It'd be awesome if we drafted him. We're not going to because he's probably going to
two
end up
roster
being...
spots. We don't need a draft. If we take him, we don't need a running back, and we don't need another secondary guy. Just draft him. Kill two birds with one stone.
I think you're thinking of Sione Vaki.
Either one.
Oh yeah.
He's still built like his brother. He could play running back.
But Melton, he showed the athleticism, right? Obviously, we know the whole family's athletic. Both his mother and his father played collegiate sports at Rutgers. So this whole family has athleticism. He ran a 4.39. He jumped out of the gym, 11.4 in the broad jump, 40.5 inches in the vert. I mean, insane. He was probably a solid day 2 guy going into the combine. He might sneak his way into the back half of the first round just off of his combine performance.
Ooh,
I like it. My favorite, and it's not going to be someone who'll be drafted in the first, possibly not the second, maybe back end of the second if someone takes a shine to him. Luke McCaffrey. I thought he was outstanding. His 40. I mean, his 3-cone drill? He was third behind Laster and Pearsall. The receiving drill, he had such good hands as well. Just the break, everything. I'd love to see us draft him just so I could see him versus his brother twice a year. And he's already got bragging rights for a faster 40. I think he would be a fantastic complement to this wide receiver room. He just has just a good overall skill set, and he comes from great sporting stock. He was by far my under the radar favorite. I know there's a bit of a spotlight shining on him because he's Christian McCaffrey's brother, but I loved him. I thought it was fantastic. I can't give any more superlatives to him because it makes me look a bit weird. But yeah,
no, keep it going. Keep it going.
Yeah. Josh's man crush of the week. But yeah, McCaffrey was up there for me.
I think you just figured out a new segment for you guys right there. Josh's man crush of the week.
It might actually it might come to fruition. I had a few last year, but this year I thought McCaffrey was brilliant. I was trying to watch. I didn't get online to watch a lot of it with Mitch because of family commitments. But when I was watching the highlights, I got to watch McCaffrey, and I thought every drill he did just looked fantastic. He's not like I said, first round, second round talent. He might slip into the back of that second if someone looks at him and goes, "There's enough tools there, natural ability that we can do something with." Third or fourth round, I think. But if he does get into the second, that'll purely be based on his name and people hoping they'll get the same type of production. And with that, watchers, listeners, we come to our final segment, which is the mock drafts. I've queued it up to the point where we are going to have the gentleman from the Let's Talk Seahawks podcast going first. And here we go. So, talk us through it, gents.
Wait it in, Rob.
Right. So, in this type of class, you have to go get one of those tackles, right? One of those offensive linemen. Troy Fautanu is one of these guys who can come in, play tackle, play guard. He's very versatile, can do anything you need, and he just killed it in the combine. We did not trade back. It was something that we wanted to do. We talked about it. We looked at offers, but in a realistic setting, we have to snap him up if he's there, because before the combine, you maybe would have got this guy at pick 22, 23, 24. So we could have moved back a little bit. There's no way. There's a chance he could be the second or third guy, offensive lineman off the board. That's how much he rose his stock. So we thought, okay, you need to address the interior to continue working that offensive line. Christian Mahogany was sitting there in the third round. I thought he had a really good combine as well. So did Adam. So we decided to go there. But then a couple picks later, Adam starts beating the table, jumping up and down for his guy right there.
Yeah, look, I think we were obviously. I think they haven't updated some of the algorithms for these mock draft systems. We expected PFF to have a little bit of a better one. I don't think either of us really expected that Troy was going to fall to 16. If he's there, I think the Seahawks run and get him. Again, with Mahogany, it was about a guy coming in that has interior versatility. This is a guy that can play center, but he is primarily that right guard position. I think that he can solidify the interior of that offensive line coming in. And then with Sweat, the fact that if he is there in the third round, I think the Seahawks run to the podium to get him. I think that he is an electric player coming off this combine. I think he was overshadowed in Texas. And I think depending on what we want to do with this defensive line going forward, he could be a real stunner.
Oh, for sure. Plus, it doesn't hurt to have a guy who's 360 on the goal line. And then we got to get a tight end. We knew some move was going to happen. Either we thought a release of Disley could happen, but then I heard these guys are free agents. So what are we going to do? We got to address the tight end position. This is a really good tight end class. Went out and got Ben Sinnott there in the fourth round. Athletic. He can do a lot for you. I'd like somebody who could be kind of a more of a blocking tight end to go with him. But Ben Sinnott, I think, is someone who could be a weapon for the Seahawks. And we were able to get that pick. Yes. By trading the 119th pick to the Vikings and picked up an extra pick later on in the draft. But there's somebody who I know Adam liked, talking about him during the draft, during the watch party. And that was our next pick here.
Mekhi Wingo. This is another guy who I think probably isn't going to be there in the fifth round anymore after his combine. This is another guy that I think really showed some power especially in the bag drills and some quickness. This is a guy that can move. Great compliment if we bring in Tre'Davion Sweat to that interior defensive line. This is a guy that I think is fluid enough that he can kick out and play defensive end if we want to go with a three-man front. And then on those early downs can be that other inside guy, the pass rusher in that interior defensive line. Again, I'm not really sure that we're going to see this guy fall to the fifth round. If he does, I think the Seahawks run and get him. As far as Ben Sinnott goes, the fact that we, Kansas State, obviously we've got some history the Seahawks do. John Schneider drafting guys out of there, Tyler Lockett being the big one for us. I think this is a guy that we probably keep our eyes on. Again, I do think we're going to address the tight end position in this draft because it's such a wonderful class. I think Ben Sinnott is one of those guys that maybe not a complete standout, but as far as an overall player goes, this guy can block. He can be in the trenches for you and move the pile, but he's also got some really soft hands.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on, once again, deep class for offensive linemen. So we addressed it yet again. You gotta dip and dip and dip into this well, right? We got to fix this problem. So we went out and got tackle Roger Rosengarten. To come in and from Washington, right? He's going to know kind of grub systems. Maybe there's some holdover there in blocking schemes, but we need somebody who can be Abe Lucas insurance, right? Say Fautanu comes in and gets slated into guard. And then Abe Lucas goes down again. Well, I guess he could kick out and we could bring a backup guard in. Or if we have a tackle who can get it done on the edge, maybe he comes right in and we don't lose that continuity there in the middle. So having extra pieces to plug and play is not a bad thing, especially with a few other pieces who may or may not be here next year on that offensive line.
I say you stick Rosenstein in as the sixth man on the offensive line and get that game going. We know he can move, right?
Yep. Went and picked up Trevin Wallace. Trevin Wallace is one of my sort of sleepers in this draft. He's somebody who's going to go late, 6th, 7th round. I think PFF had him ranked 245th in their rankings overall. But he's a player who's going to come in. He's going to be effective on special teams. And I think he's actually going to be able to crack somebody's linebacker rotation in the NFL. So we went out back part of the draft and picked up Tevin Wallace. Ended up trading with the Falcons, traded back to get an extra 7th. Adam went ahead and selected with that 7th Dominique Hampton out of Washington. Wanted to beef up that safety room since, well, we didn't know then, but
well, we knew. We knew at least that Jamal Adams was going. Obviously, Dominique Hampton is not the same enforcer that Jamal Adams is on the line, but this is the guy that can come up and help and run support. I think he's actually more of a special teams ace. I think this guy's going to be a gunner and an enforcer on the special teams. Really sure tackler. Not super dynamic, but I think getting him this late, if we're looking to shore up that back end of the defense, I think is a great pick. We were a couple of safeties that were around there. Obviously, if we could have gotten Vakai somewhere, is it Vakai? How do you pronounce that guy's last name? Out of Utah, somewhere else in this draft, which I think we were targeting, that would have been addressed, but we chose to go a different route. But I think getting another Washington player, a local guy, yes, I know that he's not that we've got the Washington's offensive coordinator, not their defensive coordinator, but I think there's familiarity there, and I do think this guy can come in and offer something right away on defense.
He disappointed me a little bit at the combine with his athleticism. I thought he'd be a little more competitive in the testing numbers, but on the field, he flies around. I like on tape what I see. It's the testing numbers don't correlate right now. So I need to do a little more film study on Hampton. But the last guy we picked, we traded back, got Mr. Irrelevant, basically just to pick him as Mr. Irrelevant. And that is my favorite player in this draft class. And that is wide receiver Hayden Hatton out of the University of Idaho Vandals. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Idaho Vandals. Both Adam and I are from Idaho. Adam attended the University of Idaho. I attended the University of Idaho parties. So it's, you got to be a homer when you can, but this guy is actually a really good prospect. PFF has him as their 280th prospect, and that is so low. It blows my mind. He won awards at the FCS level. He has a 1% drop rate in college. 1%. That's insane. He's a quarterback's best friend. He might not be the fastest guy. He came out of high school as a tight end. At Idaho, they switched him over to wide receiver. He pairs nicely with a speedy guy on the other side. He reminds me a lot of Cooper Kupp. And if he were to run his 40...
Oh, that's a lofty comparison.
I don't make comps. Ask Adam. I do not make player comps. But this player, old school football guy, reliable receiver, tough. I think of Wayne Corbett when I'm looking at him. I mean, this is a sneaky pick right here. And so I want everybody to remember Hayden Hatton because he is going to do something in the NFL.
UDFA star.
I'm gonna say this for me, and I'm not to make a comp, but he was my Jake Bobo this year. This is a guy that I want the Seahawks to take. Maybe they don't draft him in the 7th round. Maybe they do, because I do think that after that combine and people going back and actually watching tape might try and get him in the back half of the 7th round. But if he is a free agent rookie, the Seahawks need to bring him in. He's my Jake Bobo this year. This guy's going to make an NFL roster and he's going to make an impact.
I like it.
Also, just for the podcast, IDHO, Idaho, go.
That's right. That's right.
Love it.
The looking at this, I think the every player up to pick 201 has definitely appeared in at least one of my mocks. So I'm all aboard for that. I appreciate the triple dipping in Washington. I was going, oh, you've double dipped, and then I realised that you've got Dominic Hampton. I was like, oh, triple dip.
Dominic Hampton's a great shout as well. It's not very often you get to draft a guy with 6 whole seasons of experience. That's a lot of game played in a position where you really want a guy to see the game in real time and not be full of adrenaline and everyone rushing up. You want that guy to be zoned in and seeing it all unfolding in front of him. That's a guy
He's also
with a
been
lot
healthy.
of stats under his belt.
He stayed healthy for 6 seasons.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
this
that's
guy,
it.
Go back and watch the tape. He still throws his body around. This is a guy that is not
Yeah.
afraid to get in there and make a big hit.
I'm a big fan.
Genuinely,
I'm a big fan. I think he's a really good pickup late.
Nice. Well, Mitch, it is time. I will let you be the master of this ship and explain to people what we did with this one.
Ooh.
Yeah, so ours is a little more straightforward. We've picked quite a linear path here. Talisa Fuaga was our first pick. We could have taken Fatanu, and I wouldn't have minded, honestly. But Fuaga, we're taking here and either using out on the perimeter, on the edge of the line, or inside at guard. Either one will work really well for him at the next level. We really like Fuaga, and a lot of people were high on Fuaga before the combine and before the Senior Bowl. But both the Senior Bowl and the combine have been brilliant exposure for Fuaga. I think he's really cemented borderline tackle 2 in the class. I think him and Fashanu are sort of jostling there, depending on the team fit. I think either of those go second. We were a big fan, so we took Fuaga there. I love his aggression. He's a real mauler, and I like the nastiness, and he's a real finisher as well. He puts people onto the turf and really finishes. So love that about him. Michael Hall Jr. I think is quite a nice fit for DT potentially for our new system. It's quite an athletic. It's a taller DT rather than the shorter sort of DT, which I think might work quite well. Peyton Wilson was a big faller in our mock here. Surprised to see him at 85 after a trade back, but we picked him up there as the mobile sideline to sideline linebacker that we could really use in our new system. I think a lot of people liked Peyton Wilson before, but the medicals came back quite well, and he tested really well as well at the combine. I think he hasn't hurt his stock at all. Cade Stover's a lot of people's sort of regularly picked tight end to the Seahawks because he falls right in the bracket where I think we'd like to see one taken. He also provides a really reliable weapon at tight end. I know he's not necessarily your inline blocking go-to, but as a tight end weapon, I think he could really fit quite nicely. And now with Disley gone, I think that becomes even more of a pressing need. Marshall Nealon's a guy that we'd interviewed at the combine. I think he may not have been necessarily on a lot of people's radars coming in with some of the more flashier edge, candidates in the top of the first round. But Marshall Nealon's a guy we've obviously wanted to find out more about. He looked really clean in his drills, so I think that's not quite a nice mid-round pickup for us. Bit of edge depth there. I think you can never really have enough edge, and we've obviously lost Taylor this year, and a lot of people don't expect to see him back. So picking up an edge with those later round picks, I think, is likely. Zach Zinter is a player that obviously broke his leg. That he's expected to play to show out at his pro day. So that, I think, a lot is great news to a lot of people that liked him last year. I mean, he was originally guard 1 for a lot of people. People had him right up before that injury. So to see him available, that late in the draft, knowing now that he's going to compete at his pro day and potentially start the season and play a starting role on a team, I think that's a great pickup late. And how good would that be for our running game to have Zach Zinter inside a tackle? Unbelievable impact that would have for our running backs. and then Sione Vaki, who's a lot of people's favorite late safety, I think, as well. And the fact that he was asked to do his running back drills as well at the combine after he'd finished was a great shout, because he'd obviously covered for the running backs at college when they had an empty running back room. He was the one picked to take the rock and did a passable job. So there's an intrigue over his versatility there as well. Not that I necessarily think we need running backs, but there could be a fullback role there for him potentially. There could be an option to use him there, and we obviously do need safeties more than ever after today. And he's a great competitor. High points the ball really well, competes for catches really, really well. Would add a real combative kind of nature on the back end there of our defense. So that's who we went with, and I think it ticks a lot of the positions of need once throughout there, and I think that gives us a real patch on the roster.
And to caveat this as well, so because Mitch and I will be doing with various sort of guests over the coming episodes, we're trying to do different mocks. So with this one, Mitch put his John Schneider hat on. This was very much in line with what John's been doing over the last couple of seasons. He's been taking best player available for the first one or two rounds. Yeah, 2-3 rounds. And then after that, he'll probably look for a trade back if he doesn't see anything that was worth that pick. So that's where we got to it. And luckily we picked up Peyton Wilson there at 85, who was a huge crush of mine during the combine, pre-combine and during the combine. I don't know if he's going to be there in real life, but as obviously the mock draft simulators start, rehashing and then reevaluating, we'll probably see him go higher, maybe not. But Sione Vaki, I just think, is a fantastic pickup in this as our last pick. And as Mitch said, we addressed as much as possible. I think the Zinter and the Fuaga are two of my favorites in this, though.
I'll tell you, the one that really stands out to me is 76 Michael Hall Jr. And I'll say that he's a pretty under the radar pick for the Seahawks right now, and hopefully he'll stay that way, because I would love to see us get a chance at him. They've been the comparisons all week at the combine for him have been Justin Mbuakes, who is obviously the Ravens' big defensive tackle. They're very similarly built, very similar games. Both great arm length. They know how to use their arms to get off blocks. So yeah, he's kind of the perfect fit, I think, for if we're running a straight Ravens defense moving forward. So yeah, good pick.
That's why I liked it. It's kind of what I mentioned there with the length. I kind of like the projection of a taller defensive end for us, and he kind of fits that mold.
Yeah, I think it's a great draft. Marshawn Nealand had an official interview with the Seahawks at the combine. Didn't really impress in his 40 time, but he had elite short area quickness. So, and really that's what he needs, right? He's an edge. He's trying to get around offensive linemen and rush the passer. So short area, totally fine. His 10-yard split, completely fine. He just lost steam after 20 yards. And I'm fine with that for an edge rusher. I think
do we know what his water bottle drill looked like?
We could probably go find it.
Water bottle, towels, whatever it was.
Yeah.
A multi-billion-dollar business like the NFL needing to use towels or water bottles to pick up.
And then we actually were targeting Zach Zinter in our mock at 151, and then he went at 150. So right there, same line of thinking with you guys. I think he'd be a great 4th, 5th round guy.
Yeah, and Vakai too. We were trying to get him in the back half of that of the 6th, and ended up being gone a few picks before we took Hampton. So,
and with that is our first post combine review. I'd like to say thank you very much for both Adam and Rob from the Let's Talk Seahawks podcast for joining us. We've been Mitch and Josh from the 12 Talk podcast. You can find us on YouTube. Please like, follow, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can find us on X, Instagram. Pretty much all of it is at 12 Talk Pod. Rob or Adam, do you want to tell everyone where we can find you as well?
All right. So you can see our Twitter handles there, our personal ones. And then if you'd like to follow the podcast on Twitter, it would be at LT Seahawks Pod. And then on Twitter, you can find us at, I believe, same thing, at LT Seahawks Pod. And then just search Let's Talk Seahawks Podcast. It will come up. So please give us a like, give us a follow. Shoot in with some questions. We had somebody who was like, hey, I've been listening to your audio version, and this background music you have is really annoying. And I went and listened to it, and I was like, spot on. It's really annoying. And so we eliminated it. So
I know a guy who can do music, just if you need to know.
There you go. So interact with us. We love to interact with fans. And thank you, Mitch and Josh, for having us on.
You're welcome.
We love doing these cooperative podcasts and things like that with you guys. So thank you very much.
More to come. And if you guys want to chat to any of us, we're all in the 12 Talk Discord as well. We would love to have you join. It is our pinned tweet post on X, Twitter X. Well, that sounds like the ropey, shady Backstreet versions. No, maybe not that. By all means, come and join us. We'd love to hear from you all. We're very interactive. It's a growing community as well, which Mitch is the king of our Discord. Apart from that,
I'm certainly the king of my Discord.
Hey. But yeah, should we end this with a Go Hawks?
Absolutely.
There you go. Go Hawks. Until next time.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.